Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Talking Ted Lasso here on the It's Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel on Morgan Hasn't Seen TV as we truck on towards the end of season 3 of
Yes.
Ted Lasso. We've got some interesting things going on, I think, in
Mhm.
these couple of episodes today. We're coming off, obviously, of the big Amsterdam trip, which seemed to me to be a rather high point of the
Yeah.
show's entire run. To be honest with you, I really did like that as an episode style, as a character piece. The entire show's a big character piece, of course it is, but I feel that particular episode was very much that. So now we're seeing the implementation of total football into
Yes.
Richmond, aren't we? And how the hell this manages to, be put onto the pitch. And, well, does it all go well? Not exactly at the beginning, but I feel like that's understandable given
Yes. Yeah.
the nature of total football and the complex style of it. But there is also things in these couple of episodes today, I think, that I'm not overly in love with, kind of how things play out.
Oh,
I feel
okay.
like I've never had an issue with the things that happen in this show. Um, but I don't know. There's something about, and I think, namely the second episode that we'll be talking about today, episode 8.
Okay.
I just feel maybe like, did they know how to go forward with certain storylines? No, so they just decided to not bother properly.
Oh,
I'm kind of gonna
okay.
leave it as that for now until we get on to it.
Okay. I'm curious.
But yeah, should we get straight into it with season 3,
Yes.
episode
Let's do it.
7, Janine? The strings that bind us, the literal strings that bind us when we're training in total football, because we
Yeah.
can't we can't get too far away from each other. We all have to stay in a whole big system, don't we? Otherwise, well, our intimate body parts are going to fall off, apparently.
Yes, and of course, that was Roy's idea. Yeah, the implementation of this is very kind of complex, them having to learn how to play completely different positions and do things that they've never played. So it's just interesting that, you are a professional at this sport, but there is literally something in the sport that you have no concept of, which is just kind of a really
Yeah,
interesting thing to think about and see these players have to grapple with. So yeah, it's really tricky at first. Yeah, and very funny that Roy suggests they tie their members together,
yes.
to make sure they stay very close. So it does kind of cause some issues and some scares. Um, but ultimately, it kind of does pay off. Though they're on this kind of big losing streak, and then their first game kind of trying to implement this, there's a lot of confusion, nobody really knows what to do. um uh the commentators are really confused, they look really lost. And so, when they kind of go to regroup before going back for the last little bit of the game, Jamie is kind of the one who figures it all out for them. He's kind of the center and realizes I need to be in the center because he's the only one who hasn't
Yeah,
really had to switch it up. They keep him where he's at. So he says, instead of playing to me, play it through me. So he kind of just locks it all into position for everyone, makes it make sense for everyone in terms of where he sits. And now kind of everyone has a better idea of what to do. And they actually use it beautifully and score a
yeah,
point. So even though they
yeah.
don't win, it's a beautiful play. They get a point, and even the crowd and the commentators are just impressed at how well it was pulled off.
It is.
So
It's the best. It's the best bit of football I've ever seen Richmond play.
yeah.
It's the most beautiful goal I think they've ever scored. Never mind
Yeah.
all the Zava stuff from earlier in the
Yeah.
season. I think this is it's a lovely sweeping move, entirely dictated by Jamie Tart, and I feel like interesting that Jamie is now becoming I mean, we've seen his arc go from
Yeah.
where he began the show as
Yeah.
you know, king hateable person of Richmond, um,
Yeah.
to where he is now, to the soul searching, the humble, humility of his
Yeah.
whole story,
Mhm.
to where he is now being presented as quite possibly the leader of the whole team in this
Yeah, and it's what
particular moment, and
yeah, and
it's fascinating to see.
and even when he is about to kind of suggest his idea, he is scared to do it because he doesn't wanna come off as an asshole. So,
Yeah,
the fact that he's even kind of so self-aware that he's like, "I don't wanna say anything that'll kind of, mess up my progress or have people see me in that light ever again." So, even in him about to give this suggestion of what to do, he's still kind of self-conscious about how it's gonna come off to people, if it's gonna come off how he used to be. So that also kind of is interesting, to see just how well this kind of, arc has taken him. So I liked that he kind of got to be, like, the heart of this moment and really kind of brought their strategy together. So as, we go into the next episode, we'll see just how well that kind of ends up paying off for them. So,
yeah, because I
yeah.
mean, truly, it is an entire 180 for
Mhm.
Jamie Tart, and I believe he has some rather emotional moments in the latter part of this season as
Mhm.
well, Jamie.
Yeah.
In the final episodes, to come up in our last couple of episodes of Talking Ted Lasso, obviously for the moment.
Yeah.
But it is a complete 180 where we started this show and he couldn't do anything we liked, could he? Every
Yeah.
single thing he did was annoying or completely unlikable.
Yeah.
And now every single thing, I mean, every single thing he seems to do is just the most heartfelt, kind of enjoyable,
Thoughtful.
thoughtful, selfless thing to do possible. Um,
Yeah.
and whether it's two extremes being at play, I think is less important than the actual slow story of that changeover, because we've
Mhm.
seen it go, we've seen it blend together and him
Yeah.
come out on this side that he's now come out
Yeah.
as the potential, leader of the total football revolution in Richmond. Play through him, be the dictator of play. That's
Yeah.
it's a great thing, and it works for, yeah, for one goal. Yeah, they lose the game, but it gives people hope, and that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? Trent Krim even says as much after that particular
Yeah.
match. He says, and it's going to work now. And he, after watching the training and everything like that, was really, really concerned
Yes. Yeah.
um, about everything, because it was a bit laughable. It was a bit silly. It looked
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous. I love how in the last episode of this as well, I must have spent about 10 minutes explaining the history of total football,
Just
only
for
for
them to do
Beard
it up
to do
top.
it at the start of this
Yeah.
episode as well. So
Yeah.
I needn't have bothered doing
Yes.
all that, really.
I thought the same thing. As soon as the episode started, I'm like, "Ugh, Morgan literally went through all of this on the episode." Um, but yeah, and Trent, I think he's all in on the Lasso way. It's something we've seen him kind of,
Oh yeah,
formulate as a coaching style, and now he's kind of all in on it. So his excitement as somebody who kind of knows this is also very encouraging, I think, as well. So yeah, it was great to see the team kind of, get a win and see this actually get, finally working, something working for them. Um, then we kind of move on to Keeley and Jack and that whole relationship.
yes,
And Keeley ends up kind of getting love bombed, where Jack is is, spending all this money on her, buying her these extravagant gifts, and she doesn't really kind of, clock it that's what it is until she has a talk with Rebecca, and Rebecca kinda tells her, "That's what Rupert did, he bought me a car and all of these flashy things." So, if you're uncomfortable with that, maybe tell her you kinda just wanna even the playing field and, that it kind of does make you uncomfortable. So it's a conversation they do end up having. And Keeley ends up kind of, saying, "Hey, let me kind of buy things for you every once in a while." So,
Yeah,
yeah,
because Keeley's hardly strapped for cash. I know
yeah,
Jack's a billionaire or
super
whatever she
rich.
is,
Yeah,
but Keeley's hardly strapped for cash herself, so I
yeah.
don't think that's gonna be an issue there. I will ask what you yes, this is Morgan hasn't seen TV, and you often ask the questions and things like that, but sometimes I like to ask the questions too. What do you think of the Keeley Jack relationship at all? Because when it came, I think when it came in, it was just an example of, okay, this is an interesting turn.
Yeah,
This is something I didn't expect to
yeah.
happen. I'm very much interested to see how it's going to play out. I thought the only, LGBT plus
Yeah.
storyline we were going to get in the whole show would be Colin and
Collins,
Trent
yeah,
and things like that. I didn't
yeah.
think we were gonna get anything like this. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, interesting. We see where it plays out, obviously, over the course of these 2 episodes. But what do you think of it as a concept almost? I would ask.
I mean, like you, I kind of appreciated the kind of left turn surprise of it, but it never felt like it was gonna be anything that was gonna be long lasting. It just felt like their vibes were way too different.
Do you
And
question why bother then? Because I think that's where I'm sitting now. After watching, obviously, both of these episodes we're
yeah.
talking about, how it obviously ultimately will come onto it, but how it ends in episode 8, why have they bothered doing it at all?
Yeah, I mean,
Does it add anything?
I think it might play into a little bit of Roy maybe seeing somebody, treat Killy how he should have treated her. And it'll also maybe put her in a vulnerable spot so that when she does have kind of her moment with Jamie in the next episode, that will kind of keep us on our toes as to kind of, okay, well, now what's going to happen with this Jamie thing now that he's kind of there for her in this very
Yeah.
vulnerable place. She's just broken up with this person. This person has kind of shamed her. And here comes Jamie to make her not feel shamed in this situation. So I think it served the purpose of now kind of putting her in a interesting emotional place to now set up maybe these kind of past feelings that Jamie had confessed, and now it's a way to kind of smoothly kind of get us back on the Jamie or Roy track of things, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. And
Because I
to be
don't think
fair,
she would
we
have
never saw too much of her and Jamie's relationship.
exactly.
They broke up pretty quickly into the show's run.
Yes. And we never really saw her grapple with his confession. So we always just assume, no, well, she's all in on Roy, so she's not even factoring anything in with Jamie. So
Yeah.
to kind of jump back into a is it Jamie or is it Roy thing after Jack would feel weird because up to this point she hasn't really expressed any kind of waffling on her feelings for Jamie or like do I still have feelings kind of thing. So him being here for her in this moment, then I think straightly puts him into the position of okay, maybe he is something she's considering again. Because he wasn't really in that spot before. So I think the Jack relationship was in service of establishing a spark for maybe Jamie again.
I mean, I suppose I understand that. I just don't think it was necessary to even go that far to establish a spark
Yeah.
because I think
No, I
Jamie can do that himself at the moment rather than
yeah.
needing this third character to come in
Yeah.
as the antithesis almost. We don't really need that. So I feel ultimately I end up feeling Jack was a pointless character, and that's a
Yeah,
shame
no,
because
I
I
generally
don't like that. You know, I
yes,
would
I
have
agree
liked
with
to
you.
see more exploration of that side of things, and the show doesn't allow it to happen because Jack has this kind of harsh turn in episode 8 when obviously
Yeah, that's
something
very
happens with
judgy.
Keeley we'll talk about,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's immediately judgmental, and we've not seen her act like that for the, you know, few episodes she's been in. So it
Yeah.
feels odd.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I just for me, I had to kind of find a way to rationalize it and make it make sense. But I wholly agree with you. I don't know that that was needed. Um considering how it ends up. It feels like yeah, very pointless. But because I love this show and I love the character of Keeley, my brain kind of had to
Yeah,
kind of give it a point. So or I'm trying to think of it from the point of the writers in terms of like okay, how do we get her in a emotionally vulnerable place to where she might be more receptive to Jamie. So maybe that is what they were thinking, but I agree with you that I don't know that they needed to do all of that and have this character, this kind of 4 episode or 3 episode situation with this character to create those kinds of feelings in Keeley. But
yeah.
I agree.
I would say, you know, Keeley as a character, people are capable of changing their emotions without anybody else getting involved. You know, it is perfectly acceptable for Keeley to be in this single person mindset
Yeah,
and to witness Jamie doing all these good things he's doing at the moment, and then to think for herself, oh, interesting, rather than needing to go through the opposite scenario
yeah,
to realize that. Like, that's not how people work. Yes,
yeah.
okay, it might make everything a bit clearer, a bit more obvious, but it's not necessary.
Necessary. Yeah, and now that I think about it, I mean, even when her friend worked for her and she was kind of asking about Jamie, Keeley was kind of like coming to this realization that Jamie was different from how he was when she dated him and that he had changed for the
Exactly.
positive, and she kept noting all of these things. So yeah, I mean there was enough there that she could have kind of come to that on her own, especially, once we do get into that episode, Roy's reaction to the situation also could have been enough for her to lean towards Jamie in a moment of like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I was wrong about him. Maybe he has really changed, kind of thing. So yeah, this whole kind of storyline here now feels like oh well, there's not much to say about it because it's kind of done in the next episode. And what was the point? You're very much right. I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think it's the best thing the show's done because
Yeah.
it's been so good at kind of closing things or
Hmm.
closing arcs well and closing stories well, and things like that. But I mean, I suppose another thing would be I still miss Dr. Sharon for certain situations,
Yeah.
and I feel
Yeah.
like there was no real need to write Dr. Sharon out the show. I don't think. I think we could have
Yeah,
kept
because
her.
yeah, because again, in this next episode, it seems like the situation that Ted's dealing with, Dr. Sharon could have been a really big support for him in that episode,
Absolutely.
but they kind of just put Rebecca in that spot. But also when you talk about kind of tying things up, let's talk about Sam because I think a storyline we didn't
Yes.
really feel super satisfied in terms of how they handled it was the Rebecca and Sam and how that kind of just abruptly
I
ended and the reasoning behind why it
yeah.
ended. And then like he seemed all in and she wasn't, and then all of a sudden when she kind of is kind of putting herself out there a little bit, he seems kind of indifferent. And it even comes up a little bit here because we have Sam's dad coming to visit, and so he's really excited. He's getting the restaurant all ready for his dad to come, and he sees all the chef and the staff talking about this politician who is kind of all about uh really strict on immigration and kind of uh
Yes.
just saying terrible things about people coming into the country, and just kind of an awful person in terms of her rhetoric. And
Yes,
so
fairly obvious kind of depiction of a number of
xenophobia
British
and
politicians of
yeah,
the current
yeah,
time. Not anybody specifically, I don't think, but just
a
a certain
general
sect.
yeah. Yes. So, he sees a lot of his workers kind of complaining about this woman. He's seeing what's going on. He doesn't like it. So he tweets about it and talks and calls her a bigot and kind of, talks about how he's very much against her rhetoric and things. She kind of throws a uh shut up and dribble kind of talking point back at him, and
Yes.
then he does end up calling her a bigot. And then when he shows up at his restaurant, it's destroyed. Somebody, some supporters of hers uh are most likely the ones who have kind of wrecked and destroyed his restaurant. And so he's
Yeah, they
pissed.
vandalize, don't they? They
Mhm.
graffiti everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Yes. And so he, it's just before practice, I believe, and he goes off on this rant. And we've never really seen Sam like this before, angry like this, upset, hurt, frustrated, and he kind of just lets it all out. And right at that moment, his father shows up and is there to kind of comfort him and talk to him and give him some advice to uh, you know just keep going, just keep moving, don't let these people, get to you in this way. He wants to skip practice, but his dad is like, no, you're going to practice. And so we can see, because we've seen all these like kind of little text conversations and calls he's had with his dad over the season. So to kind of
Yeah.
get to meet him and really understand the relationship was really nice to see, how he ends up being this calming force for Sam. And then we do learn that Ola is his father's name, and that's the name of his
Yes.
restaurant. So that also is kind of was a sweet thing to see. So he was kind of ashamed and afraid to take his father to see the restaurant all messed up, but he ultimately does take him there, and then he's met with the whole team fixing up the place, painting, fixing the sign, and all this stuff. So, yeah, a great kind of team building moment, and a great moment with Sam and his dad, and yeah, it's just a kind of a feel good thing for this episode that I really loved.
I mean, definitely. I mean, these are all the strings that bind us, as the
Yeah.
episode title says. You know, it isn't just the physical strings of learning
Yeah.
total football. It's the emotional strings
Yeah.
and the relationship between Sam and his dad. And Sam's storyline is a very very dominant one in this episode as well.
Mhm.
This and with the restaurant and the political back and forth.
Yeah.
Um, and his father is a fun presence, really. I
Yeah.
think because we've never seen Sam get as riled up, I suppose, as he gets in this episode. We've seen him make a political statement
Mhm.
before when he refused the sponsorship
Mhm.
because of whatever was it
Whether
oil
they were doing
spills in
yeah, mhm,
Nigeria or something like that
yeah,
they were doing. Um, we've seen him do that before, but it feels a bit closer to home for him, I
yeah,
think, and it's more direct. He's kind of getting personally affronted
yeah,
by this, and I feel we need to see this from Sam as well. It's all very well and good him always being Mr. Positive, and
yeah,
he is, but in order to be believably Mr. Positive, you have to also have some fight sometimes to make you feel like a real
yes,
person. And he
yes,
does then, and he gets angry, and he's
yeah,
really, really, affronted by this entire thing. And then this enormous, godlike looking man comes in. He is an enormous man, by the way, his
yes,
father. Like, I don't know if it
yeah.
was just me. He felt like he was massive.
Oh, no,
Um,
he's a big guy. I believe he was on Game of Thrones.
was he? Was
Yeah.
it that same
Is
was it that dude who I'm thinking
I
of?
think it's that same dude who got locked in this in the vault or whatever.
Was it? Was it? I mean, it does
Yeah,
kinda
I
look
think
like
that's
him.
him.
I would have to make sure it may
Yeah,
very well be that man. I
yeah,
don't know his name, but he is such a lovely, helpful, calming presence to Sam in
yes,
this movie, and he feels so proud when they go to the restaurant, and it is even in its state that it's in of disrepair at that point that it's in,
yeah.
and people fixing it up, people cleaning, and the team being
Mhm.
there to help and everything
Yeah,
like that. Ola is still incredibly proud of this situation that Sam has found
yeah,
himself in. He's still incredibly
yeah,
proud of the fact that the restaurant exists, that
yeah,
these friendships, I suppose, exist for Sam. And obviously, when he sees his own name, light
yeah,
up
lit up
at
and
the
see
back of
that's
the
what he named it.
restaurant,
Yeah.
it's a big emotional
Yeah.
moment for the two of them, and
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
really, really lovely.
Yes, we do
Big
allude
fan.
to Yeah, and we do allude to Sam, both telling his dad not just about Rebecca, but about his head chef. So
Yes.
I think that's leading us to believe that maybe, I don't know, there's feelings there for his head chef because, when he meets Rebecca, he says, "Oh yeah, Sam told me everything about you." And she's like, "Oh,
Yes.
cool." And then he says the same thing to the chef as well, and Sam looks very embarrassed when he finds this out in both instances. So, yeah, just to see how close he is with his dad, that he would kind of divulge even those things to him, was kind of funny, and really
Yeah.
nice. So, yeah, a really
Very
nice moment
nice.
for the two of them. Yeah.
I suppose a storyline we can talk about that will bridge these couple of episodes is Nate as well,
Yeah.
who
Mhm.
rather interestingly, given everything obviously that I was talking about early on in this season, obviously the back end of last season and
Yeah.
everything like that, to expect the villainous turn of all villainous turns from Nate to really grow to hate this character. And then after a matter of a few episodes, I know we're into episodes 7 and 8 now, but
Yeah.
even a few episodes ago, we're not getting that. It was one bad moment. It wasn't this whole arc of
Arc of
I'm
Yeah.
becoming a mustache twirling villain now. It was
Yeah.
one bad moment, and then I'm a human being again.
Yeah. But
Because
now I'm in this
all of a sudden,
situation. Yeah.
yeah, but now I'm in a situation that I kind of feel a bit bad that I'm in, but I can't get out
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Um, because we're now humanizing Nate again so much
Yeah.
from that final uh, the finale of season 2, the first couple of episodes of season 3, when he was, big bad Nate the Great, Wonderkind, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call him. I'm Mr. West Ham. I'm going to wear a black suit and have inexplicably immediately grey hair.
Yeah.
To becoming more like Native early season 2 again,
Mhm.
and him being an actual well-rounded human being that has good within him, that you kind of want to see positivity for. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting to me that this would come about, and I just feel like it was dialed up to the extreme for me again. I know we've spoken about this
Yeah.
obviously when we were talking about Nate's betrayal all those episodes ago. I just feel like everything clearly was just dialed up to the extreme for me in
Okay.
the online space to
Yeah.
expect
This
horrificness,
big yeah. This whole season.
constant, just
Yeah.
one after the other, after the other, after the other, just awful, awful things happening
Yeah.
awful things Nate was doing constantly all the time, because this just seems to have been
Yeah.
what he was painted as, and that's just not the case at all. And it's
Yeah.
taken me a bit to get my head around it, to wrap my head around it, because it's kind of confused me a little bit. And I'm sat there going, why am I like caring about Nate's dating life?
Yeah.
Why do I want to see him succeed with Jade, the
Jade.
hostess of whatever Greek restaurant it is, or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
Taste of Athens, isn't it
Yeah.
called?
Yeah.
Taste of Athens. Why do I want to see this succeed? Because we've been subtly painted to want to see it succeed. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
All that time ago when he first met her, when there was the whole argument about the
Y-
table in the window, and
Yes.
all this situation, we've been slowly
Building to
fed
this.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And despite the bad things he's done, the fact we still, I think, want to see this budding relationship succeed that spans over both of
Mhm.
these episodes, as I'll put episode eight's tagline up now. The fact we want to see it succeed is maddening. It, com- Considering how we've already talked about certain storylines being handled less than wonderfully.
Yeah.
Like, how subtly wonderful is this storyline handled, that it's teetered on that line so tightly
Yeah.
that
To
it
all of a
still
sudden
gives us
jump.
the
Yeah.
opportunity to care.
Yeah.
It's insane that it still gives us the opportunity to care. That is stunning writing of Nate's
Yeah.
character,
Yes,
really.
because I think you probably went in expecting to hate him this whole season, so the fact
Of
that there's even
course.
it's just like this turn happened without you even kind of realizing it, and you having these positive feelings about him without even realizing it. Yeah, it's just a testament to kind of how tricky this show is and smart in terms of how they play with our emotions like that. So, yeah, this is really kind of a cute thing that has been built up, him trying to talk to Jade and her kind of being very indifferent towards him, seeing him kind of fumble with the model, and then her kind of coming up to him with the baklava and them having kind of a little moment there. So that's kind of his in.
Yeah.
He has a dinner with his family, and his mom and sister kind of give him the advice to just go for it. He makes one of his cute little boxes for her, but he trips and falls. It gets run over in the street.
Yes.
But he still ultimately asks her out, and she says yes. So, yeah, a really happy moment for Nate, and we see them go on a nice date going into this episode. And they actually sleep together, and it
They
seems
do.
nice. But then ultimately, Nate wants to know the status of things, and she's like, oh no, it's just kind of chill casual, so she is very kind of hesitant to label it. So then we see his missing of his old life with Richmond, as he tries to kind of create a diamond dog situation with the people on his team, but they're kind of so cold and into
Yes.
themselves that
Very.
it doesn't quite work.
It's it's comical in an absurd way. This, when
Yeah, in a sad way a little
it's
bit too.
literally, he might as well have done. In the movie The King of Comedy, when De Niro puts those cardboard cutouts of audience members in a
Yeah.
cardboard cutout Jerry Lewis and pretends he's on a talk show. That's what it feels like to this. But these people from West Ham are actual real human beings. But they might as well not be, because they might as well just be cardboard
Yeah.
cutouts. And Nate sat there in his darker than dark, gloomy, miserable office. Which,
Yeah.
again, why West Ham is painted like the gates of hell, I
Like
don't
this.
know. But it really, really is. Um, so he might as well be talking to himself, just sat there going, well, what do you think about my emotional situation now? And they're obviously not speaking back to him, because these real human beings in this
They don't
situation,
care.
he's trying to form this new Diamond Dogs at West Ham, whatever it is, aren't speaking back to him because they haven't got a clue what's going on. He
And they
might as
don't
well be
care,
talking to
really.
cardboard cutouts and then just having conversations in his own mind and going absolutely insane.
Yeah, because I think he's trying to have the assistant coach, he's the team manager, so he's has, like, his version of Higgins, his version of Beard. He tries to call
Yeah.
Rupert to come, and Rupert's secretary is just like, "He's not coming. He's not coming to that." So, it's just really awkward. The team manager is just constantly thinking that, like, he's there so that he can fire him. Like, the other guy's just
It's
like, "Yo, yeah.
ridiculous.
I don't have any concept of what a good relationship is. I've been divorced like 3 times," and, like so,
It
yeah, they
is,
can't help him, and he's very much missing the vibe of what he had at Richmond. So, yeah, not
but
only
it's his
are we
own
kind of
fault. I mean,
of
we
course.
acknowledge and we recognise that it's his own fault, and
Yes.
he should be missing it. Do we like the fact he's missing it? A little bit, but do we
Yeah.
also feel sorry for him, the fact he's missing it? A little bit as well.
Yeah, so I think it's a good balance of seeing kind of a positive thing with him, seeing, us kind of find something to root for him despite what he's done, and then a balance of also reminding us what he's done and what he's lost, and seeing him
Yeah.
recognize that. So this episode gives us a really decent balance of those elements for sure. But ultimately, by the end of the episode, he does end up kind of talking to Jade about it, and she says she's his girlfriend. So now he has a
Yeah.
girlfriend. So
He
yeah.
does. Very, very interesting indeed from Nate's part.
Yeah.
But there's two real big storylines going on
Yeah.
in this episode. We haven't talked hardly anything about Ted all
Yeah.
all episode long either. And I feel like we'll leave Ted's situation until for our final conversation and wrap up our Keeley romance
Yeah.
stuff going on because there is a intimate leak, shall we say, that happens
Yeah. Yeah.
in this episode. A public, explicit video leak of many people, one of which
Yes.
is
Is
Keeley.
Keeley. Yeah.
And it causes a little bit of panic in the Richmond
Yeah.
locker room, where Isaac starts to insist that everybody delete every photo they've ever taken on their phone because, oh my God, if anything gets out, it will be absolutely
Yes, any
terrible.
photos that girls have sent them or anything like that, because that's kind of where this leak was, from. Because
Yeah,
ultimately we learned the video that she had made, the sexy video she had made was a video she sent to Jamie. So Jamie had it on his phone or his email, and he, admits that he had deleted it, but he forgot that it was also in his email, and so that's what got hacked. So that's how her video ended up in there. So yeah, Isaac implores the team to delete any kind of pictures that girls have sent them or that they have sent or anything like that. And Colin seems to get a little bit squirrely just to kind of veer, to a little side
yes,
plot within this storyline, and leaves the locker room. And Isaac follows him and he's like, "Hey man, I told everybody to delete these pictures. What's going on? You need to delete them." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing it. Just leave me alone." And he kind of gets this attitude with Isaac, and Isaac's like, "Oh hell no. Like, what's up with you to
yeah,
be talking to me like that?" So he snatches Colin's phone and he sees. So, we assume he maybe sees, pictures of Colin with guys. And,
yeah,
so once he kind of realizes, he hands Colin back his phone and just doesn't say anything. He kind of just gives him a nod
yes.
like he understands and goes about his
It,
way.
it's
So,
it's rather sheepishly. I think Isaac's
yeah.
a little bit embarrassed that he did that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so Colin obviously still very insecure about telling the team. So now he's kind of probably in a spot of like he doesn't know what to think. He doesn't know what Isaac's going to do and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I'm expecting this to be a thing going forward in the
Yeah.
rest of this season, really. I mean, how long for? I don't know. I was expecting a bit of a
A
Colin
resolution,
coming out
something
storyline.
sooner than,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, sooner rather than later, and I certainly hope it's a positive one. I can only imagine it being a positive one. But how is Isaac gonna handle kinda now being the only one who knows anything? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like it's
Trent, but Trent's
yeah.
not part of the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Isaac's the captain. Isaac's
Yeah.
his captain. You know,
Yeah.
it's a more difficult situation, and it shouldn't be. You know, we can say these things. It shouldn't be
No, it
difficult.
shouldn't.
It should be
No.
straightforward. But Colin has kept this secret because he's not comfortable in coming out to these people at
Yeah.
this particular point. And now I, Isaac has been, or Isaac has been made aware without the consent of Colin to be made aware, in that very awkward turn of
Yeah,
phrase I've just
yes,
used.
and so he also has to think about why Colin didn't say anything. So,
Exactly.
I
There's
expect
a lot
Isaac
going on.
to handle this like a true gentleman as he is. But Colin, obviously having this fear is probably still kind of unsure as to what will happen. But yeah, a really interesting thing to kind of develop that storyline within this kind of Keeley story. So yeah, Jack kind of ensures Keeley that she is um gonna handle it. She's gonna take care of it. She's feeling better about it, but ultimately Jack taking care of it is drafting up this statement for Keeley to say that's very much kind of taking responsibility for it, saying I'm sorry for putting this out there. And Keely doesn't like that. She doesn't want to be shamed for something that she sent, she sent that as a consenting adult to somebody she cared about. So why should she
Yeah.
feel sorry for that? Um, so ultimately she doesn't really like the statement. Rebecca told her, "Oh no, this must have been the lawyers. Jack probably didn't draft this at all. So just talk to her about it." So she talks to Jack and tells her she doesn't really like the statement. And Jack kind of tries to say, we'll kind of reword it. But ultimately, when she does kind of come back with a different version, it's still very much like Keely having to take responsibility. And she kind of blames, oh, my father. He's the one kind of saying that, it should be changed. But then Jack kind of lets out her own ideals, saying that, like, why are you sending those kinds of things? Why are you putting it out there? And blames Keely herself. So
Yes. This
ultimately,
is this
that's
is
kind of
this is the
what
exact
severs the
point.
relationship. Yeah.
Yes, this is the exact point I was talking about before of where on earth does this come from Jack?
Yeah.
What this
Mhm.
is an excuse to get rid of her out the show.
Yeah.
That's what this is. That this
Yeah.
is, let's make her immediately just be bad and say something terrible
Unlikable.
and have a
Yeah.
really, really, really bad opinion about something so we can go toodle
Yeah.
off now, new things, rather than actually doing
Yeah.
something interesting, which is a shame. I just feel
Yeah.
like it's a real shame. It does make you think about this kind of stuff because, like, why would you have that opinion? People are allowed to do what they're allowed to do. The people who are doing
Mhm.
something wrong are the hackers looking into these things. People can
Yes.
send
Mhm.
whatever to anybody else if they want to. This is
Yeah.
perfectly reasonable, perfectly
Yeah.
allowed to happen. You can do whatever you want. You can't be having an apology statement over doing something like that. It fosters a culture of real emotional shame, I think. And
Mhm.
yes, some semblance of shame, I think, is a good thing. I think in the wider world, people should have more shame because then people would do
Yeah.
less stupid things. But
Yes.
this is not a stupid thing, not in this sense.
No.
This is not a
Yeah.
stupid thing to do. This is
Yeah.
a perfectly reasonable, loving thing to do between two people at that time. And
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yes.
Jack just has this immediate knee-jerk kind of, well, why on earth would you ever do something like that? Horrible, horrible, horrible. I control, 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 and immediately gets all like this, and I don't like it at all.
Yeah, it feels very much just a reason to get her out of the show. But then also now, The bigger picture thing to think about is like, what does that mean for Keeley's company? Because they're the backers of
Well,
that
yeah.
whole kind of thing. So yeah, she's kind of ended things with Jack. She's feeling very kind of down and vulnerable. But also we have to kind of talk a little bit about Roy's reaction. He kind of sees her and
Yeah.
comes up to her and says, "Hey, I'm so sorry this happened. Are you okay?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And then he kind of makes the stupid decision to ask her who the video was for. So it's kind of
Yes.
self-serving, a little bit selfish question when, she's the one who's kind of going through it. It shouldn't matter. But
Doesn't
this
matter.
nagging little bit of jealousy because he still has these feelings kind of pulls at him and he says it. And she's just kind of really disappointed and walks off. And then, of course, he realizes, like, I shouldn't have said that. It was really stupid. So now that she's broken up with Jack, already just in this very vulnerable position, Jamie comes to her door and apologizes. He's like, "It's my fault. I didn't delete it from the email. I just forgot. And I'm so sorry. It's all my fault." And she's like, "No, it's not your fault. I know this, you had nothing to do with it. It wasn't it was just an accident kind of thing." And so, he's just really sweet to her and takes the responsibility and just wants to make sure she's okay. And so then she kind of just jumps into his arms and gives him a hug because she kind of just,
Yeah.
needs that right then. So,
First
yeah,
time we've seen that in like 2.5 seasons. So
who's to say what this means or anything like that, but she gives Jamie this really kind of heartfelt hug for him, stepping in there for her. So yeah, um that's kind of, I think, the most of the Keeley storyline. And then we kind of have the big
yeah,
storyline with Ted,
yeah,
with his ex and her new boyfriend, who was their former marriage therapist, coming with Henry.
still a
And he's
terrible
gonna whisk
situation there.
Yeah, so it's really kind of awkward for him because it's like, and how we kind of jump cut to it also, because we have this announcer kind of going off about how Richmond's on this great winning streak. Their total football's
Yeah,
working, they're doing great, they're winning, everything's great, and I'm sure their coach Ted Lasso's super excited about it. And then we show Ted just looking kind of miserable, sitting across from his ex and her new boyfriend. Um, so yeah, just really awkward situation. And then she kind of tells him, "Oh, by the way, he's going to take me to Paris." So
mm.
Henry's going to stay with him while they go off to Paris. So he immediately is like, "Oh, Paris is where you go to propose to somebody. He's going to propose. Oh my gosh." And so he gets all very anxious about the whole kind of thing. So he's
And right when he
asking
should
everybody.
phone Dr. Sharon, there's not.
Right, exactly. So this would be a good Dr. Sharon moment, but we do everything but. So we kind of call a council of the Diamond Dogs, and they kind of advise
Trent gets
him.
involved in the Diamond Dogs as well.
Yeah, because of
Trent
course
Prim's now part of the dogs.
Roy wants nothing to do. Roy wants nothing to do with it. Um, and so kind of Ted kind of leaves out the details of like the sureness of the engagement. He kind of tells them basically that that's what's actually going to happen. And then he reveals that he doesn't know if it's going to happen. He's just assuming. And then they're like, "Dude, just relax. Like, you don't know anything until you know. Don't get worried about something you don't know is going to happen." So it's basically kind of their advice. But then he still needs to know. So he calls Rebecca to hire a private investigator to kind of follow them to see like if that's what's going to happen. So he's kind of on edge about it the whole time. And
Yeah.
he's too busy kind of thinking about that to really focus on his time with Henry. So him and Beard are trying to figure out something to do with Henry. And then Henry's like, "I want to go see a football game." So they go to a West Ham game. And,
Well, they
Henry's
go to a
not
West Ham game because it's the only game in London that day.
that's
That's why
happening.
they go to a West Ham.
Exactly. And Henry's not fully aware of everything happening with Nate. He doesn't know it was
No.
kind of a negative ending of things and a betrayal and all of that. So he's still very much, "Nate is my friend." So he's kind of calling out to him, shouting to him. Nate ultimately turns around and they wave to him. And then Nate just
Nate
kind of
wants
awkwardly,
to give a little. He wants
he
to give a
wants
little wave
to,
back.
but he feels like he has to, keep this face on. So he kind of just turns
Yeah,
around and acts like he doesn't see them. So later, I think he gets a text from Rupert who's like, "Oh, I'm sorry that happened today, that you had to see them. I'll ban him from the stadium." And
yeah.
Nate kind of considers telling Rupert, "Oh, no, don't bother, I didn't mind." But he ultimately is just like, "Yeah, thanks." So he ends up kind
Yeah.
of going along with Rupert banning Ted. So, yeah, we see these glimmers of him wanting to kind of drop this feud, but he's gotten himself in too deep now, so he doesn't really know
Far
how
too
to,
deep.
yeah,
He
to
can't,
navigate it.
once you get in too deep, there's no getting out of it.
Yeah,
You have to sit in it. The only way you get out of it is if you're thrown out of it. You can't do it
yeah,
yourself now.
exactly.
You have dug that hole, and there's no gust of wind blowing you out at the moment.
Yeah,
There's no way of climbing up. And it's a shame, but does he deserve it? Yes, he does, because look what
yeah,
he did. So
yeah,
you can't say he
exactly.
doesn't. The
No,
fact we
no.
feel both of those things is the great
E
thing, I think, about
e
Nate's
yeah,
character.
yeah,
Um, but Ted is going through the ringer in this episode. He's constantly going through the ringer anyway, seemingly, but he is just in
yeah, in a
a
panic about this
panic.
proposal, and so, yeah, Rebecca calls him while he's out eating with Henry, and, she's, like, just telling him, "Dude, I don't think you really wanna know, just leave it alone, like, you know, uh uh somebody's on the street is singing Hey Jude, and he
Yeah,
loves the Beatles because his dad loves the Beatles, and Beard kind of tells him the story about what the song is about, which is basically kind of like Henry's story, what he's going through with his
yeah,
parents' divorce. Um, and makes him feel kind of better about what's happening with his parents. And so, Rebecca hears that the music's playing and that like he's just kind of worrying about this instead of spending the time with his son. Um, and so, and it plays into like Beard's explanation kind of plays into what we've seen from Ted. Like, we saw in those last episodes with the bullying situation, his anxiety, he
mm,
almost had an anxiety attack because he was just so worried about Henry. So, and now he's like missing, this time with him because he's so worried about something else. So Rebecca just reminds him, like, don't worry about this. Go sing Hey Jude with your son and forget about
yeah,
this. So he ultimately does and, ends up kind of going and sitting and singing with Henry. And then when his ex comes back, he kind of takes a little peek at her hand and sees that there's no ring there. So,
yes. Which I
yeah,
think makes him feel
a little bit
a lot
better.
better about the
Yeah.
situation, doesn't he? God knows what would have happened had they actually gotten
Yeah.
engaged. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't like. He's a bit like Sam, really, isn't he, Ted?
Yeah.
Have we ever seen him get really riled up? Once or twice, he's
Mhm.
gotten angry,
Yeah.
like properly angry. Um, but it just doesn't really happen. It will take
No.
something very extreme, and it's more an inside his own head
Yeah.
panic that
Yeah.
happens, and inside his own head anxiety that happens with Ted.
Yeah.
And I just feel like his world would explode unjustifiably if Michelle and Dr. Jacob
Jacob.
got
Yeah.
got engaged. I really do feel I would not have liked to see that happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
at the end of at the end of this episode, I like that we end Ted's storyline with relief almost at the
Yeah.
end of this, and actually having spent some quality time with Henry,
Henry.
despite the unfortunateness of them having to go to West Ham.
Yeah.
In full Richmond gear that I love. Just Beard just wears
Yeah.
his full Richmond
Yes, and
tracksuit.
he doesn't smile at Nate or anything. He just stood there, arms folded. Meanwhile, Ted and Henry are like happily waving. But yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
It is interesting. There's a lot of interesting things to think about in these
Yeah.
next couple of episodes, because we're only 2 episodes of talking Ted Lasso left in the show until we end up with season 4, which we don't know when
Yeah.
will be. I know it's in production or just recently
It
started
started.
production.
Yeah.
Um, So we only have 4 episodes of the season left. So
Yes.
how things will wrap up for this whole season, I don't think we are in for any relegation or trophy shocks with Richmond at all in this. I feel like they're a fairly mid-table, stable club. Maybe the cup again, maybe the FA Cup situation may happen again. I don't know. I'm speculating at this point. I can't tell where on earth Richmond are in the Premier League table. We never get told that sort of stuff.
No, we're
It's
just like,
way
they're on a
less
winning
about the
streak.
football.
Yeah.
It's way less about the football than it's about the people
The
involved in the
people and the
football.
characters. Yeah.
Which it should be,
Mhm.
obviously. But
Yeah.
there's interesting things to think about. I am low-key most interested about Colin at the minute, though,
Okay. Yes.
because I
Colin's
just feel
storyline has really been hooking you these last few
it
episodes. So I
has,
like
because
that.
I just feel like, well, I think I said it as much when we found out about Colin, when we had those
Yeah.
scenes with Colin and
Hmm.
his, his partner, um,
Yeah.
and we were made fully aware of just how significant it feels because of how poor um, mainstream football deals with
With that.
homosexuality or
Yeah.
any sort of non-heterosexuality.
Yeah.
Um, it's virtually non-existent. Like I said at that time, I couldn't give you the name of any gay footballer, and
Yeah.
and that is an impossibility for there not to be. It is an impossibility.
Yeah.
Like, statistically, it is an
Yeah.
impossibility for there not to be. It wouldn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Yeah.
And the fact I can't is
It's
well,
crazy.
it's a
Yeah.
stigma problem. It's a stigma problem,
Mhm.
which is exactly what Colin's dealing with. So I
Yeah.
want to see him overcome this because I would like to see the gay footballers out there, the non-hetero footballers out there, be comfortable enough to come out. I would
Yeah.
like to see that. I would like to see that for anybody,
Yeah.
of any LGBT Q
Mm.
plus person,
Yes.
anybody.
Yes.
I want to see that. So that's why I think Colin's story seems to latch onto me, just because I know how, or I
How that
see
actually works in real
how
life. Yeah.
how it works in real life and how incredibly homophobic football is generally.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, which is a bad thing. It doesn't affect me personally,
Yeah,
but
but
I see it, so
yeah.
it's not great.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, interesting things going on. Applause for
Yeah.
Ted Lasso, generally, as always, although
Yes.
a few little wobbly
Yeah.
things going on, but generally, applause for Ted Lasso, of course. This show alternates every week with discovering Dawson's Creek here on Morgan Hasn't Seen TV on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Do subscribe and ding your notification bell here for all the stuff we do have here. There's been things scrolling down at the bottom of the screen all episode long as well. Subscribe to the main podcast feed, of course, for Morgan Hasn't Seen the parent show, the movies, and the main show. It's a Wonderful Podcast, celebrating old movies every single Friday. Over there, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave your likes, your comments on this, leave your all that good stuff, you know what I mean. And if you want to support us on Patreon or donate, there are links in the description to do that. Social media is down there, merch is down there, all the great stuff. Which leaves, Janine, only one thing left to do. And please, in your finest Jamie Tart, take it away.
I feel like it's gonna
Very,
come out
very
like
thick mank Jamie Tart.
no, it's gonna come out like a beetle or something.
That is the wrong city.
I'm
Very,
aware.
very much so.
Fully aware. 3, 2, 1.
I've got absolutely no idea what on earth that was.
I don't know either.
Bye.
Why do you do this to me?
Because it's funny.